Good morning, friends. Oh, let me turn the volume up. There we go. Hello. Nice to see you. Sounds like a rainy morning, a wet morning for at least most of Europe, looking at your comments as you check in. So here we are together under some kind of blessing rain. All right. Sometimes when I've been chanting for a while before sitting, there's something about just, chanting's a very potent kind of ramp into meditation. It kind of focuses the attention, tends to harmonizes the nervous system, wakes up the cells, opens the central channel. So it's like, after chanting, I just feel like bathing in that rather than speaking. But hey, I'll say a few words. I had one of those weird nights last night where sleep doesn't really come, or at least it did come, but then I woke up feeling refreshed and bright, and it was about nearly 1 o'clock, and I was just awake. So I was awake for, 3 or 4 hours then, probably, till about 5. And I slept again a little bit before I got up for this. So I'm feeling a little bleary this morning. And it's interesting. I was just reflecting a little on this sort of, quite kind of unsatisfactory, bleary, sort of unpleasant state. And how it relates, how not sleeping well. And, a lot of people occasionally a lot of us just sometimes for whatever reason just don't sleep well. And for some people that's ongoing difficulty. Sleep is a difficult thing. And it's interesting just to see how sleep can be seen through a lens of fear, just because that's the theme this week we've been exploring. And how, what seems to me what makes the biggest difference if sleep doesn't come. It's like whether you accept that, you relax, you try to take care of yourself being there awake. You don't want to be awake, you want to be asleep. You know that you'll be better rested if you're sleeping, but you can't make sleep come. And often what exacerbates the suffering with not sleeping is fear. A fear of, oh no, if I don't sleep, what will I be like tomorrow? Oh no, I've got to do that. I won't be in good condition. I'm going to feel bad. It's going to ruin my day. And then, the way the ideation, the projection, the forward meaning sort of spins out of control in a way. It doesn't help you sleep. and that negative anticipation makes it worse in the moment, and then tends to actually exhaust you more, I think, for the next day. So, I didn't sleep very well. And there's just that sense of, in the moment, just taking care of being awake. Okay, I'm awake, so be awake in this moment. Be awake until sleep comes. Sleep will, eventually come. And, unfortunately, I can't just sleep for as long as I wish, because I have to get up and do this. So just, okay, those are the constraints. That's what I've got. Right? And so that sense of being gracious with discomfort, being gracious faced with the sense of some unpleasant experience that may be coming. Right? Oh, yeah. So that, whether sleep comes, how much sleep comes, whether we wake up or in the middle of the night, all that stuff may be way out of our control sometimes, right? Of course you can do something for whatever they call that, good sleep hygiene. But what you really can make a difference is how you meet your situation, and you can meet it graciously. That's what makes all the difference. And of course, that's not just about sleep, right? It's about any other kind of negative anticipation we might have. Or how are we meeting that which is happening to us, I say that in inverted commas because, you know, how much we make it about me, how much we make it about it's happening to me, and how much we allow it to just be, well, what's happening, you know, how much we don't take it so personally. Oh, such a burden to be relieved of. And this is what's happening. I don't have to make it what's happening to me. Yes, it's coming into these eyes. The sights are coming to these eyes. The sounds are coming to these ears. The feelings are arising in this heart. Right? So in everyday speech, we say, oh, this is what's happening to me. But in our inmost orientation, is it possible, rather than contracting around the to me, rather than taking it personally, rather than making it into I and me and mine, oh, this is what's happening. Oh. And then in this is what's happening, there's a little more space. Maybe this is what's happening is uncomfortable, painful, worrisome in ordinary speech. And maybe what is happening is that we see ourselves leaning into this future moment. What's it going to be like tomorrow if I haven't slept? What's it going to be like later when I have to face that person that I'm uncomfortable with? What's it going to be like when, you know, all the overlay that we add. So the overlay we add in the present, it's happening to me. The overlay we add looking to the future, imagining that we actually know what it's going to be like. All that is unnecessary burden and driven along by fear. So the antidote in that way to fear is being gracious and spacious with what's happening. That's our practice. How to be spacious means not making it so personal. It's not happening to me. It's happening here. It's happening here, within the space of awareness. And the more we connect with that sense of spaciousness most directly by relaxing. And it sounds simple, but you know, when you're tense, you can try it now. Tense your muscles. It doesn't feel like there's much space. Everything feels intense, tight, and personal. Me. And then relax. Things soften. Your experience literally directly gets more open, more diffuse, more relaxed, more spacious. And that's just the muscular level. That's the grossest level of tension and relaxation. There's a lot more other levels, right? Oh, just energetically relaxing the nervous system. Spacious. And then gracious really is that quality of like being generous, being gentle, right, with what's happening, holding it lightly, loosely, tenderly. Yes. And I'm just noticing in the comments while I'm saying this, a lot of reports of various different forms of poor sleep, whether you know, recent or just last night, or you know, ongoing, etc. So yeah. Sleep's a tricky thing sometimes. So, all right, friends. I was going to speak about something else today, but you know, that fits very much, right? Spaciousness and graciousness. I mean, there's something I find very evocative about just saying those two words. Oh, how can I be spacious, relaxed and open, and gracious, tender and gentle, like forgiving of everything, forgiving of myself, forgiving of experience, forgiving of what's arising and passing. Oh, that's an antidote to fear and drama and tension and the kind of neurotic mania of taking our experience so personally. So that's our orientation, friends. Let's sit together in meditation, cultivating the Dhamma of being spacious and gracious, open and tender, right? Relaxed and forgiving of all that comes and goes. Take your seat. Sense into the posture of sitting. The dignity of this upright body. And as you sense just the basic aliveness of a sitting body, the tingling of your cells, let your attention just gently seep and soak into the feel of sitting here. Like gentle rain soaking into the earth. As if your breath, your cells, your whole physical experience is becoming saturated with awareness, filled with awareness, enlivened by awareness with each in-breath, soothed by awareness in each out-breath. Sensing settling, awareness soaking into experience, experience softening into awareness. breathing, the naturalness of breathing, the tide of breathing, with breathing as our guide. Spaciousness is found in relaxing and dissolving tensions and softening boundaries and opening to experience just as it is, and allowing everything to come and go freely. Graciousness is found in being tender Forgiving ourselves our trespasses, not making a problem out of what happens, not being tense or judgmental when you notice your attention has gotten distracted. Receiving a brief expression of all that comes and goes. Spacious and gracious, relaxed and tender. Just letting that be your training. Whatever's happening, whatever occurs, whatever impacts body and mind moment by moment, how might I meet it spaciously, graciously? How might I relax into or relax around whatever's happening? How might I be tender, responsive, generous, allowing of the way things are in this moment? And might I see in this training that with that as the possibility, there's nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. Fear is not going to be a helpful component of how I meet some unpleasant experience or some imagined difficulty. And if we see the truth of this, fear is not necessary nor helpful, ever. Then we commit to the practice of being spacious and gracious, to not taking ourselves so seriously, to not taking our experience so personally. To being free of fear. It's as if life is constantly offering us a teaching on how to be spacious and gracious. Meditation is our way of receiving that teaching. Meditation is this way of putting ourselves very, very directly in the midst of the way life is unfolding, the way experience is presenting itself. A way of seeing our usual habits of tension or resistance or drama or distraction, and a way of leaving them aside, a way of training ourselves in being receptive, allowing. Just like this. What's standing out in your experience right now? Is it the flow of breath? Is it some other bodily sensation? Is it something in the hearing field? your particular mental or emotional state in this moment. And whatever it is, whatever's standing out, see if you can just find out what it is. How might I to meet this spaciously and graciously? What is it to be tender with this moment, with this experience? To be gentle and compassionate with that which is uncomfortable, painful, or confusing, or irritating. To relax a little around that, where in relation to which we usually tense up or resist. And just abiding as much as possible with these qualities for the remaining few minutes of the sitting. May we be spacious and gracious with ourselves and with each other, and with the way we meet life moment by moment. Finding the ease and tenderness and sense of forgiveness that brings us deeper into a freeness of being. All right. That was meditation. Time for questions. Just make a daily short mention about dana, and it may be helpful just to say how much I appreciate the goodness of people contributing in whatever way, and it may be that that's the price of a cup of coffee, that it's a few euros for a day when you join the Dharma practice, and it's just a beautiful thing. Many people contributing, or making that small offering, and maybe some of you make larger offerings as well. I know some of you do, because of course some people, don't send dana, don't make a financial offering. And I'm not saying that because I want to pressurize you at all. I mean, I'd like to inspire you to offer dana if your situation allows you to, because I think there is something between, if you have the opportunity, if you can't afford a cup of coffee today, then hey, please don't offer dana today. Just receive the dana, make good use of these teachings and practices. There's no commitment here, there's no charge, and yet if you can afford the cup of coffee, and you have to see, well, what do I really value? And if your cup of coffee is more, if you have to choose between the two, and the cup of coffee is more important than the sitting here, then that's also fine. And I think there's also something important about the valuing, right? So that our sense of appreciation that we might feel, if we feel, oh, this is wonderful, this is important, this connecting with the Sangha, this having some support in meditation practice, this having some teaching reflections each day, this is really important. I really value this. If that translation doesn't move, if that valuing doesn't go from the felt sense to the actually demonstrated sense, then I think something's missing or out of alignment. As I say, I don't say that to pressurize in any way, just to consider, if you value what's happening here. And some of you, of course, many of you are already very much expressing that value. That's how Sangha Life is supported, right? And just the reminder of that possibility, and what a big difference, what an important, it's the way all this is maintained. So George has just put the link in there, and just to thank you for your dana you might be able to offer, wish to offer, be moved to offer today. Thank you. All right, there's a few questions. Let me go back up. Lisa says, can you talk about meeting death tenderly, please? Any thoughts we can use for framing it in a tender way? My beloved cousin and best friend died just yesterday. It's my birthday today. We were as one in life. Yeah. So, the tenderness in meeting death, Lisa, the tenderness in grief is allowing it, allowing the sadness, allowing the tears, allowing the missing the person, because all that it's love, all of that, right? Love. Feel the love that's there in the grief, and allow it to move through you. The reason it's painful to lose your cousin is because you loved your cousin so much. And there's not a right way to grieve. There's not a right time frame to grieve. Some people grieve sort of very intensely. Others, it comes and goes in waves over time. Generally, it often takes longer for us to get used to the loss of someone than we might have expected. So just allowing yourself to, not having ideas about how you should feel, or trying justifying things too much, or getting too caught up in the why my cousin before me, why, etc. And one thing that's often helpful is to, if you feel anything that feels left over, talk to them. Talk to the person as if they can still hear you. And again, you don't need to get bogged down into whether they can really still hear you, and if so, how that would work. And just don't worry about all that. Just talk to them as a way of expressing the love, expressing anything that might feel left unsaid. Yeah, all of that is very much being tender with death and with grief. Okay. And then a question from Linda. about having disabilities and chemical sensitivities, which means that, that sensitivity means that the various things can easily make you ill. And yeah, the catalysts or toxins or things that trigger the sensitivity can be anywhere, including in the apartment building you live. So that sense of not feeling safe in my own home, living in a constant state of fears and anxieties. Wow. So firstly, Linda, I feel for you, and I know some others and some people who come here to the Moulin on retreat who have that kind of very, very intense environmental sensitivity or chemical sensitivity, and for whom managing that can be, very complex. And the not managing it can have really, a lot of uncomfortable, difficult effects. So, yeah, I was feeling for you and all of that. The two things that I think are helpful, one, mind out about the idea that you live in a constant state of fear and anxiety. It's not possible. Nobody can live in a constant state of anything, But just when we feel like that, people will say, I'm in constant pain, or I constantly feel as if, and the idea, when we frame it like that, the idea of constancy makes it feel really unworkable and heavy and absolute. So give attention to the moments where that's not the case. Right? It can't be always the case, because just no emotional state has the capacity to be constant. And so even though it's frequent and its frequency may be intense, not really notice the moments where you're not fearful or anxious, even if they seem small moments. Maybe there's a moment where you're bored, maybe there's a moment where you're dull, maybe there's a moment where you're amused, etc., etc. Maybe there's a moment of joy. And just seeing, actually, fear and anxiety comes and goes. It can seem as if it's constant, but the phenomenology of it will show you that it's not. And it's very, very helpful to see that it's not. And then the other thing is just to recognize, even though I can really understand how that situation can very much be a source of, or a condition for, a lot of fear and anxiety, was to see how it is possible to separate out the caring for your situation. What do I need to do to take care of myself? How can I manage as much as possible, right, imperfectly, which environments I'm in and how I meet those environments and the requests I might make of people around me, etc. And that will always be imperfect, right? And to separate out what I need to do to take the best care of myself I can from fear and anxiety. So like I said earlier in today's session, fear and anxiety, fear is unnecessary and unhelpful. And that can be a hard thing to see sometimes, because it says, look, given my situation, of course I'm fearful because X, Y, and Z can happen to me, right? And so is there a way of being clear-eyed about X, Y, and Z, and of being clear in the way I, meet and manage X, Y, and Z, without adding the emotional complexity and intensity of fear. So it's not to judge yourself for being fearful. It's not to imagine, I shouldn't be fearful. It's to actually really come close to your experience. See the moments and appreciate the moments and open to the moments where fear isn't present or prevalent. Right? And then to see how, just because one has a difficult situation, we all face difficult situations at some moment or another, right? In various different ways. Just because there's a difficult situation right now, or I'm anticipating a possible difficult situation in the next moment, right? That doesn't mean I need to engage with it with the emotional knot of fear and drama and kind of the intensity of self-concern. What's going to happen to me? Yeah. All right. I hope that's helpful. Jane, yeah, you can. Yeah, please, George, see if you can. Can you invite Jane and see if she can come on screen? And while we're waiting for Jane to come on screen, I say just something. Are you here, Laura? If Laura's here, I'll say something about dispassion and disenchantment. But let me see first if you're here. So I'll wait and see if you respond that you're here. Meanwhile, Eluned says, how to work with graciousness and openness with someone in our life who is unkind and narcissistic, and we need to be defendant against. Minimal contact. Minimal contact. And then maximum sincerity, maximum warmth and kindness, graciousness. Right, so maximum graciousness, maximum spaciousness means keep away as much as you can. And of course, that's difficult if it's a family member or etc., etc. But that sense of, it's actually important. You to maintain the graciousness, right? You just won't be able to sustain that very much if you're in the kind of the onslaught of unkind and narcissistic. And if it was a stranger, you could probably just see it and be unaffected by it more easily. But because it's, I'm assumingly, somebody close to you, right? And then with all the history and all the ways in which that narcissism and neediness and unkindness and cruelty has kind of been dumped on you in whatever way over the years. So important then to give yourself the permission to take space as frequently and as much as possible. So that's the formula: maximum sincerity, minimum actual time in contact. All right. So if you're phoning them or if you're going around, go around for as short a time as you can. Phone for as long enough that you can check in, hi mum or dad or whoever the person might be in your life, sibling or whatever. Check in, express some warmth, a little bit of interest, but you make the habit so they also get used to you being short contacts. You don't owe them long periods of time in which they get to just act out their unkindness and narcissistic pull. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm seeing that Jane's having a little tech trouble. Yeah, using Safari doesn't work well with this because of the HTML5 coding, I think. So it's much more reliable if you're going to use any of these kind of features to use Chrome as a browser. All right. Veronique says, guilt and fear are very, where did that go? Guilt and fear are very closed for me. I feel guilt and then fear of being rejected. Should I be spacious and tender with guilt? No. You should get out your Dharma sword and zap guilt. Guilt is, you see, there may be remorse. It's important. I like to separate out remorse and guilt. There's a very important distinction. Remorse is that feeling of, oh yeah, I did something unskillful. I feel badly about that. And if I can make amends, I'd like to. If I can apologize, I will, etc., etc. Right? And you actually, remorse is a way of digesting some action which we recognize was uncaring or unskillful or insensitive or whatever. But guilt is just giving ourselves a hard time. Guilt isn't about the action and the remorse. It's all about what kind of a person I am. Oh, I can't. Oh, I'm so. Oh, I shouldn't be so. Oh, how could I have been so? Right? It's just, it doesn't help us to process remorse. It just reinforces a negative self-view. So banish guilt. When you see any guilty thoughts, banish them. Yeah, needs some ferocity. That's what all those kind of like wrathful deities are for in the Tibetan tradition, for like getting out the flaming sword of wisdom. This is what this is. It's like a Buddhist lightsaber. You just slice through guilt. And then you can make room for the remorse. Oh yeah. You know, remorse is about the action and about what I can do about it and how I can forgive myself, how I can apologize to somebody else, how I can do something reparative, right? And that's very different. The guilt just keeps reinforcing the negative self-image, the blame, the drama. Useless. So don't be tender with guilt. Be tender with yourself, and banishing guilt is one way of being tender with yourself. Then you can actually make room for the remorse without reinforcing all that self-critical bullshit. Okay. How are we doing, George? Any sign of Jane being able to bring her on screen? I know that you've had a few tech challenges before, Jane, in coming on screen, so you may want to just... Oh, you've written. I want to say thank you to Zohar about waking up in the night as an opportunity to meditate. You've been doing that. Great. And now, since the New Year's retreat, you listen to the recording of the Gate Gate and you join in, and it soothes your nervous system and you often go back to sleep. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Nice to hear. Nice to hear. All right, Laura, I didn't see you saying you were here, but let's see if you're here tomorrow and we can talk a little bit about dispassion and disenchantment. All right, friends. Good to see you. Good to sit with you. Very appreciative of your kind words to me and to each other, and all the ways in which that creates this feeling of Sangha, support, sanity, good fortune to meet in a kind of way that's sane, spacious, gracious, in the midst of a world that's often lurching around in all kinds of crazy directions. So please take care of your heart. Please, please go as spaciously and graciously through the day as you're able to. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.